So the first big thing today, cybersecurity awareness. So what I can only describe as a monumental fuck up on the end of the Department of Government Efficiency is the Department of Government Efficiency's website, doge.gov, um, and what is inherently wrong with it. So, um, following the social media mention of Doge's initiatives, um, a federal response was implemented within uh, 72 hours, significantly faster than the average 6 to 8 week development cycle for a government digital product. The resulting website exhibited 37 critical vulnerabilities uh, via the OWASP standard, with a page speed insight score of just a 23 out of 100. Now, for anybody that's a developer, and I've been for a long time, that's a disaster. Um, that is a horribly poorly implemented resource. Um, so let's unpack the security nightmare that is the Doge.gov site. There was a recent security event revealed that the DB permissions that run Doge.gov are entirely public, um, which causes a CVSS 10 severity. And from from the from that aspect, you can't get worse. I mean, the common vulnerability scoring system, you hit 10, you're at a showstopper. Security audits then identified unrestricted write access to 94% of the database tables on the doge.gov website, zero authentication requirements across over 140 of the endpoints that control the database, publicly accessible DB endpoints. Uh, so basically 3306 and 5589 or whatever, the typical port structure for which those DBs run on because they're MySQL, uh, which is that's a whole nother security discussion. The configuration placed on the site puts it in the top 0.1% of most vulnerable government platforms since systematic tracking of those subsystems began in 2018. So here's the other problem. Um, they hosted uh, Doge.gov on Cloudflare pages, which is a horrible deviation from normal federal hosting protocols. Um, and the configuration bypassed 84% of the mandated FedRAMP high. So FedRAMP occurs in low, medium, and high condition. FedRAMP high security controls are the highest and saved for critical, uninterruptible infrastructure. And so um, the analysis that was made showed that the platform operated entirely outside of the federal.gov TLD infrastructure, um, which is a horrible, 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 horrible mistake. Nobody in their right mind would do that for a government resource. So, on the API endpoints issues, a security analysis revealed 100% of the site's 43 API endpoints lacked every form of authentication, um, which exposed 27 critical DB operations. Penetration testing identified hundreds of exploitable vulnerabilities in a matter of seconds. Um, and the exposed endpoints permitted easily over 1,500 unauthorized DB modifications within the first 24 hours of the security event. This means that the database that controls Doge.gov is more holy than a block of Swiss cheese. So understand this. Doge's admin level access has potentially compromised over 347 critical government repositories, with the Treasury's code base being the tip of the catastrophic iceberg. So we're talking about unfettered access to systems processing roughly 5 trillion in annual federal transactions. And the nightmare doesn't really stop there. Internal audits reveal that 89% of the compromised systems share authentication protocols, and that creates a horrible cascading domino-like effect that could basically bring down the entire federal network if exploited in the correct manner. So that meant that 74 to 78% of these systems in an interconnected state um, could essentially fall if Doge continues to fuck up. Um, then we talk about waste.gov. So waste.gov is Doge's waste management or government waste identification domain. Um, and up until a few days ago was a blank WordPress page that was unsecured. Um, so um, ultimately, though, like a day ago, the site was forced with a password authentication um, medium, but the password authentication medium is so horribly insecure and vulnerable. I imagine it's only a matter of time before it gets knocked over. Um, it is worth noting that the level of technological incompetence uh, isn't just unprecedented. Um, Trump once suggested that the cyber was a big change, setting up a precedent for technological misunderstandings in the government. Because Trump is as big of a fucking idiot in regards to cybersecurity as Elon Musk is a big fucking idiot in sensibilities. So, as we look forward from this event, the Doge.gov implementation has demonstrated countless critical failures across numerous federal security benchmarks. While vulnerability metrics exceeded standard thresholds um, by over 800%. Um, Analysis revealing that deficiencies in 89 out of the 91 required security protocols for a government website to pass validity, while penetration testing uh, displayed well over 1,800 distinct attack vectors. I mean, as a security professional, I can tell you, I could only wish for something to be that easy to hit. So the TLDR of the whole thing is some smooth-brained dipshits rushed out a government website with security so goddamn awful, it makes a paper mache bank vault look like Fort Knox. Zero authentication, exposed APIs, and databases more open than a 24-hour Waffle House, uh, making the whole clusterfuck basically begging for a script kiddie with a keyboard to come in and trash the place, which they could do. A 15-year-old script kiddie could accomplish that. So Elon Musk's, proud crowning achievement uh, would be that his Department of Government Efficiency website could literally be owned by a 15-year-old kid with 15 minutes of spare time on his hands. And so it's just horrible. So does anybody have any questions? Nobody nowhere. I'm happy to provide insight. Nobody. Um, you've been on enough lives that I'm about to invite you into this live because I've never bothered you before, and I think it's your turn. Oh, phooey, phooey, phooey. That's no fun. On a Dell? Ew, that feels gross. That feels very gross. All right, well, um, right. We got old. We got old and we got tired. And um, Harper, I think that they are completely and totally incompetent. I do not think that competency and Elon Musk are things that go together. I mean, look at the Cybertruck disaster. Um, I think what it is that Elon Musk got really fucking lucky, and his luck has run out, and behind closed doors, he has no idea what the fuck he's doing. He really doesn't. Hi Becky, welcome to the chat. Ugh. Harper, have a good afternoon. It's 3 o'clock there. Okay, so the next thing that we have to talk about is um, the banning of the Associated Press from uh, the White House press briefings. No problem, nobody. I'm happy to do it. Today it came out that Donald Trump has banned the Associated Press from the White House. Um, and I wanted to analyze um, the constitutionality and the legality of doing that. So um, basically, uh, the First Amendment's press clause doesn't just protect the abstract concept of the freedom of the press. It establishes specific legal enforceable rights that Trump's Associated Press ban directly violates. In Richmond Newspapers Incorporated v. Virginia of 1980, the Supreme Court established that the First Amendment provides a constitutional right uh, uh, of access to government proceedings. The right of access has been consistently upheld and expanded through decades of jurisprudence. Under Sherrill v. Knight, 1977, the D.C. Circuit Court established the White House cannot deny press passes arbitrary for less than compelling reasons, and they have to be compelling reasons. The court has also held that the protections afforded news gathering under the First Amendment guarantee the freedom of the press, requires that access not be denied arbitrarily or for less than a compelling reason. So the legal framework of press access, so the constitutional framework for press access rests on several key SCOTUS decisions. Global Newspaper v. Superior Court, 1982, established that restrictions on press access must be narrowly tailored to serve a compelling government interest. Trump's vague allegations of fake news failed to even establish that spectacularity. Press Enterprise Co. v. Superior Court, 1986, created the experience and logic test for determining whether government proceedings must remain open to the press or not. White House press briefings, with their long history of press access, is a vital role in democratic accountability. So now let's get down to the constitutional violations that come with Donald Trump banning the Associated Press from the White House. In Rosenberger v. University of Virginia, 1995, the Supreme Court held that a viewpoint discrimination is an egregious form of content discrimination that triggers strict scrutiny. So Trump's implicit targeting of the AP for its coverage is textbook viewpoint discrimination and is therefore unconstitutional. Prior restraint. While not a classic prior restraint case like Near v. Minnesota in 1931, the AP ban functions as a de facto prior restraint by preventing one of America's largest news organizations from gathering the news. If they're banned from the White House, how can they gather the news? They can't. The Supreme Court has repeatedly held that prior restraints bear heavy presumption against constitutional validity. Retaliation. This is a big one. The AP ban by Donald Trump also constitutes an unconstitutional retaliation for protected First Amendment activity under Perry v. Sinderman in 1972, which prohibits government officials from retaliating against protected speech, limiting it, or otherwise suggesting it can or cannot behave in a certain manner, as far as the White House is concerned. So now, historical context. Courts have consistently struck down attempts to restrict press access to government functions. The Pentagon Papers case established that governments bear a heavy burden of showing justification for any restraint on press freedom. Because the Associated Press refuses to call it the Gulf of America, that does not meet the burden of showing justification for having the Associated Press banned from the White House. Overbreath. The blanket ban on all AP reporters violates the overbreath doctrine established in Broderick v. Oklahoma in 1973, where if the White House had legitimate concerns about specific AP reporters, it doesn't have them. A total ban on an organization is unconstitutionally overbroad. It's just like Jessica Denson's NDA violation. Jessica Denson won her case against Donald Trump by revealing details about the Trump campaign, and Trump sued her because she signed an NDA, and the court affirmed that Trump's NDAs were overly broad, and that basically a Trump NDA that said you're not allowed to communicate anything about the organization was just far too broadly stated and was therefore illegal. Trump's justification for a ban alleges unfair coverage and unconstitutionally vague, set by the standard in Granite City of Rockford, 1972. Government restrictions on First Amendment rights must provide clear standards and prevent arbitrary enforcement of those standards, which has not been the case here. Limited public forum doctrine. White House press briefings constitute limited public forum under Perry Education v. Perry Local Educators, 1983. In such forums, restrictions must be reasonable and viewpoint neutral. Trump has never been reasonable nor viewpoint neutral in any way. Now, as far as the administrative law implications of banning the Associated Press from from White House press briefings. So there's a precedential impact. If allowed, Trump's AP ban would create a dangerous precedent far beyond the immediate First Amendment violation. It would effectively gut the press clause protections established in landmark cases spanning 5 decades of First Amendment jurisprudence. Um, the broader constitutional crisis becomes Trump's attack on the Associated Press access represents more than just an isolated First Amendment violation. It's part of a broader assault on constitutional democracy itself. The Supreme Court has repeatedly recognized that press freedom is essential to democratic governance, most notably New York Times v. Sullivan in '64, which emphasized that a profound national commitment to the principle that debate on public issues should be uninhibited, robust, and wide open. I mean, I hate to say this, but deep throat Nixon. Uh, that's all I've got to say about that. So legal remedies and or outcomes that could come out of the AP press briefing ban. Um, based on excessive precedent, courts are likely to, one, issue an immediate and temporary restraining order against restoring the AP's access. That's probably going to happen. Um, multiple First Amendment violations under strict scrutiny and analysis will be found, and if found, establishing additional prophylactic protections against future uh, press freedom violations. So basically, the courts will basically tell Trump, you need to shut the fuck up. You need to stop bitching about the Associated Press. You can't ban them from the White House. It's not constitutional. Um, the ban's constitutional defects are clear under multiple lines of Supreme Court precedent. Access rights, content neutrality, viewpoint discrimination, and prior restraint are all classic atypified cases. And those cases iterate that the ban is unconstitutional and will be reversed. So Trump can bitch, piss, moan, cry, and whatever the fuck he wants about the Associated Press, who refuses to say the Gulf of America, instead calling it the Gulf of Mexico. He cannot ban them from the White House press briefings, and he is about to find out sternly, sooner rather than later, just how much the court is going to tell him to sit the fuck down and shut the fuck up. Okay. Does anybody have any questions? And Meredith Eisenberg, you're new. I might pick on you here in a second, but I'm going to wait and see if we generate any questions. Well, that's pretty much all I have today for everyone. So, um, if there's no questions, I will leave everyone to go enjoy their Friday evening, drink a warm pint, have an enjoyable weekend, and try not to stress. And remember, um, I'm going to be here writing shit tomorrow, as well as I'll be here writing shit Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, all the way into next week and all the way to the end of the year. Um, and I'm thankful for every one of you. Thank you.